when I started my self-employed journey, I did not know that I was a highly sensitive person.
Hi everyone, Elle Ballard is here with you today, and I have a special guest with us today, Heather Dominick. Hi Heather, welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Really
Great
looking
to
forward to
have
our conversation.
you. Yes, I'm excited for this conversation. And before we jump into this conversation, I do want to introduce you properly. So, Heather Dominick is an author of Different, The Highly Sensitive Leadership Revolution, is both highly sensitive and highly successful. For more than a decade, she has trained and mentored highly sensitive entrepreneurs and leaders so they are able to work less while making more impact and income. I love it. I am excited for this conversation. Welcome again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like to ask these questions right after I introduce my guests. Why do you do this? Why did you pick this field for your business?
Yes. Such an important question and a really personal response. So, first of all, 2024 is my 21st year of being self-employed.
Wow,
And I know, thank you.
congratulations.
And it has been quite a journey. And part of that journey is that when I started my self-employed journey, I did not know that I was a highly sensitive person. So I discovered that I was highly sensitive, or even just what that meant, when I was about around 7, 8 years into being self-employed. And at that time, I had really pushed myself very, very hard to bring my business across the seven-figure mark for the first time. And it was really difficult. I found myself absolutely overwhelmed, overworked, just overexhausted. And really, as a result, entered into what I can now look back and say was a dark night of the soul.
Mm,
And through that dark night and a lot of deep, deep self inquiry, I learned that I was a highly sensitive person. I learned just what that meant. And as a result of that, I learned that I was really going to have to start doing things very, very differently in my business and in my life if I wanted to prevent myself from just being in this downward spiral of, despair and burnout. And so learning that and making those changes, I then realized how important it was to actually be able to share that with others. And that is why I do what I do.
I love that. And I can relate. And thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yes.
And that actually takes me to our discussion of I want to dig a little bit deeper. What does it really mean in this combination of high sensitive people and leadership and entrepreneur, and congratulations, your 21 years in business. That's amazing
Thank you.
on all of your achievements and discoveries. And I can definitely relate, having this community I lead, Women of the World Network. We have so many cultures in the community that different backgrounds. So I myself come up from different background, right? And so when these different cultures come together, because we are a little bit different, some of us more sensitive than others, some of us view things differently. There might be assumptions based on our upbringing, how we view people, how we meet people, how we interact with people. And yeah, and this assumption of being sensitive connected to weakness, right?
That's
And
right.
I've heard that before, and definitely wanted to dig deeper there. And really, how did you discover that for yourself, and how did you learn to maybe cope and grow through that to
Yes.
become this amazing leader and entrepreneur, for so many years, and now sharing this with others too?
Yes, absolutely. It's such an important point to zero in on. So, first of all, when I learned what it meant to be a highly sensitive person, I was not happy about. But I really thought like, oh my gosh, like, are you kidding me? Like, here's just one more thing that's wrong with me, one more thing that makes me totally weird and just, completely just, less capable than all the other people around me. And yet, when I dug in deeper to fully understanding what it is to be a highly sensitive person, I started to see, like, oh, there are actually some really valuable traits to being a highly sensitive, but it really comes down to, do you know how to work with your nervous system? Or does your nervous system work against you? And that's where I really dug into research and getting clear for myself, like, okay, how do I work with this to my favor? And that's when I really began to develop tools and teachings and trainings, first just for myself. And then when I started looking at the clients that I was currently working with at that time, and realizing that the majority of those clients were also highly sensitive, when they first learned about this, they didn't want to be labeled highly sensitive either. They also saw it as a weakness. And
Mm,
so that's when I really knew that this work was very, very important
yeah.
for those of us who do have the sensitivity trait. We do feel called to be of service to others. And so, how can we go about that in a way that has us feeling a sense of fulfilled purpose, while not completely needing to burn ourselves out
Mhm.
and forego a sense of well being in order to be able to again share that purpose. And so that's really where that shift from like, oh, this is bad, to, okay, actually, this is something that's really powerful. It's just about how you perceive it and then how you work with it.
Yeah, isn't that amazing when when we practice the self-acceptance and just really pause instead of brush it off and yeah, just what we hear or what I heard in my childhood, right? Just brush it off, just keep going and
Absolutely.
but instead of that, just really pausing and accepting, no, this is who I am, we become so much more powerful. And it's just, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. I think I was able to pause. I will say, I know I was able to pause because it was such a breakdown. So it was such a defining moment because the option to continue as I had been really wasn't an option. I literally did not have the physical stamina, the, mental clarity to just keep going the way that I had. So it was that's really why I refer to it as a dark night of the soul, because it was like, we need to make a choice here. And that's what that helped with that pause for me, for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. And we will be able to share links for the book, right? And your links, how to connect with you in this recording on the video and our podcast so that listeners could connect with you.
Of
Because
course, of course.
it's such a unique field, but it's also so needed instead of kind of keep going and ignoring that. I think it's just so important to really, yeah, to
Absolutely.
embrace that, to
Yes.
build up, and then we become so much more powerful. Uh,
Absolutely. It really makes such a difference. I mean, for myself, but I've just mentored hundreds and hundreds of others over the years. And you mentioned your global community, and the Business Miracles community is also global. And so this is, it's literally worldwide. The research shows that there's 20% of us who are born into the world highly sensitive. It
oh,
is the wiring of your nervous system. And when you learn to work with it, it truly is empowering, and everything really does become so much easier.
yeah, yeah, I love it. Beautiful.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that. I want to move on to talk about the business building for so many years, and congratulations again. That's amazing. And I know there are so many lessons. right? We learn along the way that we can definitely talk about. But if you were to pick one lesson that you learned in your experience of building a business as a woman, and we could talk about the sensitive as well, adding all these layers to that, right? What would be one big lesson that you would separate in itself and share today?
Yeah, absolutely. It hands down, know who you are and create from what is genuine and authentic to you.
I love
By
it.
trying to pretend to be someone else, just mimicking or even modeling what someone else is doing will end up costing you so much more in the long run from an energetic standpoint and also from a results standpoint.
I love it. Yeah, so important. Thank you.
Yeah, so important. It sounds so simple, but it can be really challenging, right? But one of the things that I definitely said for years is that if you want a fast track to personal growth, start a business because it will have you facing all of your shadows, your wounds, your unhelpful habits. But the more willing you are to actually lean in and face them and get to know yourself and how it is that you work best and what it is that you're really here to bring to the world, things will be so much easier than trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not.
Yes, beautiful. I love it. Yes. I agree 100%. To me, I always like to say to me that's this thing that I love about building a business is this personal growth, this self-discovery. Oh, I didn't know that about myself, right? It's just like
Right?
these moments of wow, I didn't know I think that way, or I didn't, it's just so beautiful.
Beautiful and challenging.
Yeah.
Especially when you're at the point where you're like, what? This again? I thought I had this.
Yes.
Right? And then you're like, I like to refer to it as like up the spiral, right? So you're making progress, but you hit that same learning point like one more time. It's like, oh, come
Yes.
on.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the challenging moments where you think, okay, well, maybe I should just stop, or maybe I should just not continue because this is not working, right? And then
Yeah.
those moments are so important because then realizing, but I don't want to go back to where I was because I
Yes.
really grew this much.
That's
And
right.
imagining, yeah. So again, just yeah, comparing, I guess, yourself with ourselves with who we were yesterday, back
Yes.
mimicking point that you made earlier, and yeah, and just really focusing on our own. So I know that one of the topics you also talk about, which is really close to my heart as well, is this idea of work-life balance.
Absolutely.
I think it's becoming so much more important because these days, just because of this overwhelm of everything, this inflow of information at us, the business, this mindfulness and peaceful time is luxury today, like sitting actually in or going for a walk without the phone, without, is just such a luxury because we are so busy. And how do we create this work-life balance? What are the maybe steps that you recommend, where to start for people
Mm.
who are interested?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, first I'll speak to it from the highly sensitive person perspective, just because that is what I know best. And it is absolutely adaptable for those who are not highly sensitive. But being a highly sensitive person, those of us who are HSPs and are attracted to being self-employed, doing mission oriented, purpose driven leadership work, it is because it feels to our core as this is a contribution that we're here to make. And often because as HSPs, we desire to be living genuinely. And as part of that living genuinely is to be able to care for ourselves in a way that a highly sensitive person tends to need. For example, it does tend as highly sensitive people that we appreciate quiet time, right? Part of being a highly sensitive person is that our nervous system physiologically overwhelms easily. So we do need to have space where we can feel grounded, we can have a sense of stillness, we can take time to connect in to one of our strengths of intuition, use that for inspiration, access another strength, which is creativity, and work from that place.
Yeah.
So it's almost impossible to have what I just described while being driven by the hustle culture, you know,
Yes.
of our 21st century.
Right.
So for HSPs, part of choosing to be self-employed, choosing, again, purpose-driven leadership work is to be able to have that sense of balance. So that's just really key to keep in mind because it then shapes the decisions that you make. And as part of the decisions that you make, the metrics you use to determine success. So I'll just speak to that really briefly. For example, one of the trainings that I offer in the leadership training programs is what I refer to as the good enough business.
Mhm.
And in short, this comes from child psychology, a psychologist named Piaget, who created a theory called the good enough mother. And basically that theory is literally about parenting in a way that's not perfect, but it is simply good enough for the child to be raised in a healthy way. So I've taken that theory and adopted it to what does it look like to have a good enough business?
Mm.
What is the metric that each HSP in business sets for them? And
Yeah.
that looks very different when it's really embraced. For someone, it might be a five-figure business where they work 2 days a week,
Mhm.
right? For someone else, it might be a multiple seven-figure business, but also where they work 5 days a week. Neither one is better or worse than the other, but each one requires a different approach based on that individual's values. So I know I'm kind of giving a complex answer here, but what is at the core of it is often what creates lack of balance is because we are operating based on metrics that we didn't choose.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're operating based on what we believe we have to do in
Right.
order to be successful,
Mm-hmm.
in order to not miss out on something that's happening,
Yes.
in order to, make sure that you're present on all the social media platforms. And at the core is to question all of that and be courageous enough to build what you desire based on a model and again, metrics that works for you.
I love it. Yeah. Beautiful.
Mhm. I mean,
Idea.
I've had a seven-figure business for years. It's a very different seven-figure business than it was when I was pushing against my highly sensitive nature. And I have not grown beyond that for years. And I'm okay with that. I'm more than okay with that. But I know in some realms, it's like that's inconceivable. Well, why wouldn't you go for more, more, more? It's like, but why do I have to?
Yeah.
Why do I have to?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it's better, and it definitely isn't better for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, really, really key to that work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. It's really going back to what it is for each one of us, that metric that you're talking about. And we talked about it earlier this morning, actually. At the end of the day, like, what is it that I want to create? With everything that I'm doing here and all this information that's coming, should do this, should do this. What is it like at the end of the day? What is it that I want? How much
Yeah,
money is it that I want to make?
yeah,
And I love that you, again, saying that because it's just so important when we know what that is, how that looks, then we know. Then we know what to say, how to say, when to show up.
exactly. Absolutely. And it makes decision making that much easier. It makes setting boundaries that much easier.
Yes.
And you know, as you said yourself earlier, like there's just so much available to us. It's literally impossible to
Mhm.
be a part of all of it.
Yeah.
So, are you willing to go through the process of making the choices that make the most sense for you?
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for that reminder.
Mhm.
I want to ask you, since we are on Women of the World Network, a podcast for empowered global women in business, I want to ask you, what does it mean for you? You are, of course, women of the world. And what does it mean for you to be a woman of the world?
Yeah, my gosh, it's so important. And there's probably lots of ways that we can each define, you know, woman of the world. But what I hear and what I love about the work that you do is when I hear women of the world or woman of the world, I hear empowerment.
Mm.
And I hear a phrase that I use in my teachings, which is privilege of agency. And that as women, to be empowered to make choices based on one's own agency, it's it's so important to remember that that is so brand new in so many areas of the world, including areas of the world where that is not available at this time. Yet
Yeah.
the more women we have who are empowered to use privilege of agency, I really, truly, truly just believe, like so deep in my heart, that is what is going to help heal the world
Yeah.
and move us from so much darkness into a greater space of light. I just really believe that. And we need to be supporting each other, which is why, you know, what you do is so valuable. We need to be supporting each other as women.
Absolutely. Yeah. And women can do that so well.
You can do that so
Each other
well.
up. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. So
Yes.
I'm going to move us into the rapid fire question section, which will be the final section of our conversation today. There will be 5 questions only. And let me know when you're ready.
Okay, so I'm just going to preface, I am highly sensitive, which which is like sometimes there's, you know, processing is slow, yet I do have training in my background in improvisation. So I'm calling on that for this section of our podcast. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Awesome. No problem at all. So your favorite book name is?
Okay. Favorite book, To Kill a Mockingbird. Absolutely.
Yes, great. Great book. Beach or mountains?
Beach.
Favorite international destination to visit?
Copenhagen.
Oh, I've never been.
Fantastic.
I have to go.
Yeah.
Summer or winter?
Oh, so interesting. I was going to say summer, but then part of me heard
Yeah.
winter. Summer, winter.
Yeah. I know there are so many things with all of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and the final question is things that you have discovered about yourself recently.
I do best with being surrounded by smart women who provide high level support.
Beautiful. Yes. Thank you for playing.
Those questions. Thank you. And I did not even really sweat that much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for playing. And
Yeah.
thank you so much again for being our guest today and sharing your wisdom, sharing your experience. Congratulations with this milestone in your business and with everything that you have achieved. And thank you for sharing this idea of, highly sensitive people connected to the leadership in business. It's so wonderful. Please connect to Heather. We're going to share the links in the comments section here and check out her book as well. We're going to post a link there as well. Thank you again, Heather.
Yeah. Thank you. So appreciated this conversation.
Yay. Bye.